What's up, everybody? It's your favorite circumstantial reviews favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Transformers Siege, I think. Kingdom? Cylconus? Kingdom, right? I think it's Kingdom. And, you know, my rule with this stuff, as long as I don't have to put forth any effort, I'm down to take a look at it. This is one exception because I do have to put in a little bit of effort, but shout out to Paul C. He sent this as well as some other stuff to me that we're going to be looking at over the next couple weeks. And while this stuff generally isn't for me, I do appreciate the opportunity to take a look at it because it allows me to kind of keep my finger on the Hasbro pulse, as it were, of what they're doing with Transformers. So I do appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. It's just not necessarily my bag. With that being said, we are going to take a look at this guy. I am generally impressed. I do have a couple things to take note of that I think perhaps I might be unique in my view of. But it doesn't matter. I don't have anything to compare it off of really anyway. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know many people. Like, I don't have many friends that are buying this stuff. So like, I don't have many conversations about it either. So it's pretty objective and it's pretty clean of any sort of outside bias, for better or worse. With that being said, we'll take a look at him, but in order to do so, we need to start with accessories. Of which he has one, which is his gun, and it's a pretty decent and faithful sculpt to what we know. Some hollow bits underneath, but not the worst thing in the world, and it's painted, which is surprisingly nice. He can hold it just fine with a 5mm port and peg. He can shoot you with his shoulder. He can shoot you and kick you at the same time. He can underhandedly shoot you. Or he can shoot you from the top of the spaceship or from the bottom of the spaceship. So let's talk about the figure. We'll start with the head, as it were. Let me tell you what I like, because there's plenty about this that I do like, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm just ripping on this thing. But, like, I like the metallic purple on the head sculpt. I like the metallic silver on the face, and even the light piping isn't terrible, especially in the scale figure. It doesn't bother me as much as it does in other instances. I think it's generally good. That being said, I do have to ask him why the long face. Like, his face is I don't like the face sculpt. I like the overall shape and I like the paint accents, but I don't like the face sculpt itself. It just seems like he's got a lot on his mind. He's got a bit of a long face. All right, so the head is actually on a ball peg, and then that ball peg is connected to a hinge, so it's like a hinged ball peg. As a result, you get great up, great down, swivel, confused rabbit face. All that stuff works well. No issues whatsoever. Extremely well done. For the torso, this piece is painted, and so is this piece, and this piece isn't. And they match up generally well, but not perfect. Same goes for the back. So just something to be aware of, but it's nice to see the paint. And I'm guessing that has to do with the sprue pieces, would be my guess, and that they just had to paint it because it's just a solid piece. It would make sense for it to be purple. You know what I mean? Actually, it is even purple, so they just painted it with a different shade, I guess, to get closer. I guess it's on this sprue. It's on the arm sprue. So whatever was made up to formulate the forearms is what they used for the chest piece, and then to match it, they threw some paint on it. And I'm not sure they would have done that 4 years ago, to be fair. So they deserve kudos. However, it is a bit off. The Decepticon logo looks good on there, and then we have the translucent orange with the silver metallic paint on the chest. On the abdomen. So all of that works really well. Waist swivel, no ab crunch, obviously. And then we have our shoulder joints. So you have a universal, basically. It gets you out to 90 degrees and around. And it's a pretty smart little way that they did it, with this piece of the shoulder kind of staying intact. Throws the sculpt off a little bit, but ends up looking cool underneath. I think it's a worthwhile exchange. And then we have more silver at the lower arm. We have a bicep swivel, and we have a single hinged elbow that gets you 90 degrees with a wrist swivel. So far, so good. Nice little bit of sculpting detail and stuff. All good. The wings themselves have the metallic purple on them. Other than that, nothing to write home about, but I think looks the part. Moving on to the lower legs, once again, we have this situation. We have this up here too, right? So we have this gray sprue piece, metallic silver. It's just, it's one of those things that's kind of off-putting to me. Not everybody will it bother, I suppose. Universal joints for the hips. Get you out 90 degrees for the full Van Damme, forward, back, and forth for the full Monty, rather, and a cut thigh swivel. All of that works really well. And the thighs are that same purple plastic. So once again, painted as this. All right, so the knees. Let's talk about this for a bit. So I'm pretty sure this is the way that he's supposed to be. And as a result, looks fine. However, I will say that, like, extending the knee up, and now obviously you got this kind of unsightly gap there, but now I like the way that looks a lot better. Me personally, you know? I mean, you know, that's subjective. And I think the kneecaps do a decent enough job of covering the massive holes in his knees. But I think proportionately, it just looks much better. But it also gives you a double jointed knee of sorts, gets you almost the full run, which is nice. If you're using the proper knee, it's pretty much acting, even though it's double hinged, it's pretty much acting on the single hinge and gets you 90 degrees. So, you know, I don't know. Up to you, I guess. You bought it, right? Then we have the metallic purple paint on the kneecaps and metallic purple paint on the toes. Speaking of the toes, or might I say, we have ankle tilts. That gets you pretty great up, nothing really down, and a hinge for a rocker, and the sculpt work is kind of kept intact underneath. So, I mean, all in all, this is certainly one of the better ones I've looked at. I would put this and sort of that hot rod in the same pocket in terms of kind of being well done. Size comparison wise, there he is with the Voyager of yesteryear, and he's priced appropriately as a Voyager. He's not a deluxe being called a Voyager with Voyager pricing. He's not a Voyager being a deluxe with Voyager pricing. He's a Voyager that's a Voyager with Voyager pricing and has the modern bells and whistles that they've been doing recently. So I think this is a good example of what they can do, honestly. Let's get him transformed. So open up these chest pieces, and that will allow you to deal with the innards here. You can open up both these panels so that it's just like this. Tuck the head in, and then this opens up. You can bring the nose cone out part one, and then this opens up, and you can bring, good grief, the nose cone out part two. Close that up. Close this up, close that up. Bring the arms up here to the top, and we'll open up this piece here. Let me figure out where it is. There it is. Flip out these sections, flip the foot in, flip this back, close it up. Same for this side. Open up, fold out, fold in, close up, and then rock the legs in. Now, you can spin this entire, oh, nope, wait, let me make sure. Yeah, spin this entire section with the orange translucent around, tab in your legs together, and then tab them into the side. And now we just have to work on the arms, so make the wing full, and then you want to rotate out, and you'll see that this tab has to correspond with this. And then we'll open, actually, I guess before we do that, yeah, open this up, tuck the hand in, close it up, and then you're good to go. You can bring that down, swivel back around the opposite way, and tab in. So, one more time. We're gonna bring this down, we're gonna fold this out, double hinge the wing till it's on the outside. We have to plug in to the forearm, but before we do that, we have to make sure that we tuck the hand in, close it back up, tuck it around, and connect it there. And that's pretty much it. I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. And here it is. And I think it does a pretty decent job as the spaceship. And all of this paint, the silver, the metallic purples, all of that helps bring it to life. The orange translucent doesn't hurt it at all. Underneath, we have landing gear that can tuck in, if you so desire, of course. Clean, sharp, proportionate. Like, I think that overall, this is probably the best one that I've looked at in terms of pulling off both modes successfully. It works really well, honestly. And let's see. Let's put him next to our dear friend Tiger Tracks just for good measure. Final thoughts wise, let's start with the negatives. I, for one, think the face is too long. In fact, I must ask him why the long face. Sad, sad, sad Cylconus. More IDW in that regard. I'm not sure what the right way is for the knees, but it doesn't really matter. One way, the articulation is hindered, and I think the proportions suffer. The other way, the articulation is enabled, the proportions look better, but the aesthetics suffer with the big gap. So either way, there's something not perfect about them, depending on which way you have have them. And lastly, I mean, and this is a minor gripe, this is only something that bothers me, is that the paint doesn't quite match up perfectly. However, it would have been worse had they not painted it. So the take home there is that at least they put forth the effort, and as a result, it does look better. So like I said, minor nitpick, but just something worth mentioning. Positives far outweigh the negatives. The sculpt is pretty solid with the exception of the face, in my opinion. The articulation is pretty much all there. The transformation is fun and enjoyable. The alt mode looks good and the robot mode looks good. There's a lot of paint on this figure. It's a Voyager, both in size and price, which is nice. And the materials are kind of fair, right? They're the standard Hasbro materials, but they do just fine for the price point, I think. So I'll be honest with you, between all of the Hasbro stuff that I've looked at recently, and I have looked at a fair bit, to be fair, this is by far the best one, in my opinion, so far. So it is ultimately a recommend from me. If they were all operating at this level, this line would be very different to me in terms of how I regard it. But this is a really solid piece. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.